What is going on, guys? We have the Warbound Conquest heading our way, and we have the ability to place bets on teams that we think are going to perform well. Now, there might be a lot of you that are not super in tune with a lot of the different alliances and teams across Warpath, and I get it. It changes all the time, so that's why I'm going to help you guys out today and show you who I'm placing my bets on. So without further ado, let's go and get started. Welcome back, guys. I hope everybody is doing well as always. And like I said, we have the ability to place bets on teams that we think are going to perform well in the upcoming Warbound Conquest League. And I'm going to show you guys the 16 teams that I am placing my bets on. We've got some pretty no-brainer teams, and then we've also got some sleepers that I think are going to perform better than people think. So let's go ahead and jump in, and we are going to talk about the 16 teams that I am placing my bets on. All right, guys, so we are now in the competition oracle, and you can see there are a lot of teams that are competing in this thing, and there are a lot of choices to be made. And of course, you would think all of the top ones are just no-brainers, and in some ways, yes, in some ways, not so much, because I do believe that there are a couple of teams on here that are kind of under the radar that are going to perform pretty well. At least that's my thoughts. Now, I also just want to say that I am not guaranteeing these picks are going to pan out. I could be wrong. I'm more than likely going to be wrong about some of them, but these, just knowing the community the way I do and knowing a lot of the players on these teams specifically, I do anticipate the majority of these teams we're going to talk about are going to perform well. Now, if they end up matching up with each other very, very early on, that may, of course, change some things, or not may, but it definitely will change some things because somebody has to win. But these are going to at least be a good baseline for you to place your bets on, especially considering that the earlier you start placing bets, the higher the multiplier is. And right now, through August 22nd, we've got a 400% multiplier. So you're going to want to be placing as many of the bets as you can with this high multiplier here. All right, so starting with the top row, these three are all very solid teams. You're definitely going to want to place bets on these three teams. Specifically, we've got Goth out of S3, the main S40 team, and then the main 34 team BDG. These three teams are pretty solid in terms of the strength of their players and their skill levels, so I would feel pretty safe and confident putting your bets on these three. Going down to row 2, number 4, 5, and 6. These three teams right here are also pretty solid teams. PF58 here in Server 58 is a newer team, but they do have some very, very high-powered players that I do think are going to help them perform very well in this event. F2P has had some changes recently. They are a little bit, they're not as strong as they were, but they do still have a very strong core of players that I think are going to carry them, pretty far into this event. In here of S50, they're okay. I certainly have nothing bad to say about them. They have some good players. They're not, on the level of what I would say like 300 is or S40 is, but I think they're at least going to be pretty competitive and make it a fairly decent way through this event. Coming down to row 3, we have got teams 7, 8, and 9. FC05, which is my new alliance. I am actually not on this team. Side note, have had some issues. We're actually kind of talking to some of the Warpath team because some of us that migrated weren't actually able to get on teams before it locked. That's a whole different story entirely. However, this team is very solid, a lot of strong players. I do fully anticipate that they will perform very well and they will make it a pretty decent way through this event. So pretty confident in that bet right there. This is the second team for F2P, which is the first team is, of course, in this number 5 spot here. Again, they've had some shakeups in their roster recently, but they are still a very strong team. So since we have to pick 16, I think this is a very good, safe bet. Even though it is their second team, so to speak, they do still have a lot of very strong players on this roster, which I think will carry them at least for a little while. And then in the number 9 spot, we have got II, Roman numeral, obviously 2 for server 2. These guys are solid. Very solid team. They've got some very strong players, very active players, just very talented players in general. So I do anticipate they're going to perform extremely well and make it pretty deep into this event. How deep, obviously, to be determined, but I do think they're going to be a very top contender as they move through this event. Moving on, I am skipping MU. I don't know anything about them. I have heard a little bit about them. I have not placed any of my bets on them. However, I have placed my bet on Goth's second team. Goth has had a very large recruiting campaign, and they have recently pulled in, I shouldn't say recruiting campaign. That's not a truly accurate description of what has been going on. They have got a couple of very wealthy players within their alliance that have been going out and purchasing a lot of accounts and bringing them to their server. So they're not just necessarily attracting a bunch of players, they're just buying accounts and moving them. However, that said, they do still have control of these accounts now, and they have a lot of very strong accounts. So I do anticipate that even though this is their second team, so to speak, I do anticipate they're at least going to make it a pretty decent way through this event. Same thing here with this second S40 team. Again, I know it's their second team. They've got a very, very strong roster, so I do anticipate them doing pretty well here throughout this event. Now, that said, the second S40 team is a little bit of, there's some gray area there, I guess is maybe the best way. Their first team I do anticipate is going to perform very well. Their second team may not perform very well. Let me say it like this. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't do very well, but compared to some of the other options, I do think this is still going to be a more reasonable pick. Next up is one of the teams that I think is going to be a little bit of a sleeper or a dark horse. I think they're going to end up performing very well, a lot better than I think a lot of people anticipate, and that is going to be SK42. They have got some pretty big players in their team now. They've been quietly kind of recruiting well. I do anticipate they're going to be a fairly solid team here, and I am pretty close with their R5. I shouldn't say pretty close, but I do have a very good relationship with their R5, so I know his activity level and how he has got his team ready, so I do think they're going to be a very solid team here in this event. My next pick is going to be PFK in server 19. They have got a pretty solid team of strong players. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I do know that they have, survived the test of time, so to speak. They've been a team for quite a while now. They've continued to steadily grow for quite a while now. So I feel pretty confident in placing my bet on them. Now to number 18, FC05. This is our team, our second team. Obviously not as strong as our first team, but knowing some of the players in this alliance the way I do, knowing the leadership, I absolutely feel confident that this team is going to be ready and is going to perform well. Do I think they're going to win the entire event? I mean, realistically, highly doubtful. But I do think they're at least a safe bet to make in terms of making it a decent way through this event. Jumping down to number 22 now, we have got Sin in server 44. They have lost some players recently. However, I do think that they still retain a pretty solid core of active players. Do I think they're going to win the event? No. Do I think they're going to perform pretty well? I do. So again, I don't know how well. I do know they have lost a pretty decent amount of players, some of their strongest players on top of that. But I do think they're still active enough and strong enough and talented enough to perform well. And then for my 16th pick here, this has kind of changed a little bit, but I skipped over them. But I am going to go with the second S34 team here. They have cut a lot of players on their roster. That's a different conversation entirely, but they do retain a still pretty solid core of players. Do I think their second team is going to go super deep into this thing? Probably not. I, of course, highly doubt they're going to win. I never say never, generally speaking, but very unlikely they're going to win. But I do think they have enough muscle here to at least perform well fairly deep into this event. So I feel confident getting a return on my investment with that bet right there. So those are my 16 teams. Again, pick whoever you want, but if you are struggling to decide, well, I really don't know a lot of these teams, I don't know a lot of the players associated with these teams, there is at least a blueprint that you can work from with my picks. That said, if you have placed your bets on any other teams that I did not list here, definitely let me know in the comments. I'll check them out. I'll see if they are worth placing bets on. These events are fun. Of course, there is some pretty kind of surefire answers, and there's some unknowns along with it. So kind of makes it exciting, of course. But again, let me know what your bets are in the comments. I would love to take a look, and it would probably help others in the community too. If you have stuck around and made it this far into the video, if you've got access to Discord and are not already in my community Discord server, the link to that is going to be in the description of the video below. Click on that link. It will take you right into the community Discord server. Whether you are a new player, a veteran player, or somewhere in between, it doesn't matter. Absolutely everybody is welcome. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch the video, and we'll see you on the next one.